Hey everybody, Jimmy Vercellino here, Producing Branch Manager, Goldwater Bank Mortgage Division, and as many of you know, today is Veterans Day. It's a day that America honors the sacrifice of the men and women who have courageously left home to foreign lands, putting their lives in danger on behalf of that freedom that you and I experience daily. I love our veterans and we honor and cherish their sacrifice. As many of you know, I've had the privilege to serve thousands of veterans over the years with all of their VA home financing needs. And over the course of that time, you can imagine I've heard some incredible stories of heroism and bravery. And on this Veterans Day, I'm excited to share with you one of those stories. Sergeant Major Amman Catalan was born in Guatemala and immigrated to the United States at an early age. Early on in his life, he opted to join the Marine Corps on October 24th, 1994, and never looked back. Sergeant Major Catalan served our country honorably for over 2.5 decades. Sergeant Major Catalan is a 3-tour combat veteran deploying twice in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and volunteering for a 3rd combat tour to Afghanistan. He has been honored for his distinguished service, receiving a Legion of Merit Medal, a 2-times Bronze Star recipient with Combat Distinguished Service, a Combat Action Medal, Purple Heart recipient for injuries sustained in combat, and many more. When I think of Sergeant Major Catalan and his sacrifice to our great nation, I think of the following quote, attributed to Winston Churchill, who stated this: "We sleep safely at night because rough men stand ready to visit violence on those who would harm us." Today, I'm excited because Sergeant Major Catalan has agreed to sit down with us and share some of his tales of heroism, wisdom, leadership, and perspective about veterans on this Veterans Day and what you and I can do to help them. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you Sergeant Major Catalan. And I guess the first question that I would have for you, man, is at what age did you know that you were just a badass? Sorry, Major, by the way, let me see these tattoos, man. So, look, that's a bad tattoo right there.
It's got the Eagle Globe and Anchor in the background, you know.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know. So that's a Marine Corps Eagle Globe and Anchor, for those of you that don't know, the Marine Corps insignia. And then his rank here, Sergeant Major.
Honestly, where did you get that badassery? I think it's my grandfather.
When did you immigrate from Guatemala? What age were you to the United States?
I was 13. So my mom, my mom left when I was 6. And she dropped us off with my grandparents, my brother and I. And she immigrated into Los Angeles, California. I went from Guatemala hunting, fishing, running around, in the rivers and the volcanoes to South Central LA. So that was an eye-opener at 13 years old.
Wow. Sergeant Major Catalan, thank you so much for your willingness to sit down with me, my brother. Congratulations on your retirement, and I'm excited to be able to share you with the world, because I think that your story is amazing. I think it's incredible, and I think you're a great American, and I think a lot of people's lives are going to be enriched after hearing your story today. So thank you again, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jimmy.
So you joined the Marine Corps in 1994, and what was that? I mean, coming from Guatemala, spending some time here in South Central, now you find yourself on the yellow footprints of MCRD San Diego. Was that a culture shock? Was that
It was. So, at 20 years old, I find myself in South Central, no job, just working dead-end jobs, and so happened to be a stat sign call. He was dressed very sharp like you were. He was very sharp. And the 20-year-old, I never heard of the Marines before, ever. Never seen Full Metal Jacket, never heard anything about the Marine Corps. And he was like, hey, what do you want to do? And I'm all like, well, I like to travel. And it's like, you like adventure? It's like, travel adventure. All right.
Son, we've got the perfect job for you.
Perfect job for you. All 300.
Amen,
So you're going to be an infantryman. I'm all like, sign me up.
You served 3 tours of combat. Not a lot of Marines can say that they served any tours, let alone 3. And so, having served 3 tours, 2 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan, what did that teach you?
I use the analogy that Mike Tyson, says, it's like everybody wants to be a boxer until they get punched in the face. Everybody wants to be to combat until they get to combat. And then the reality hits you that combat changes the man for the rest of his life. For me, it made me appreciate life, appreciate my brothers. Because we never, for us, every combat tour, I was never fighting, for a president or anybody else. I was fighting to bring back my brother to my left and my right.
This is something, not everybody tends to do is hey, volunteer for a 3rd combat tour. Having already made it through 2 in Iraq, you opted to go back for a 3rd time.
And I was given the opportunity to go help out, and our original mission was to bring back some of their gear. So they asked for volunteers, and I was like, hey, I have to go. And I did, and I ended up serving with the 1st Battalion, 6 Marines, and 2nd Battalion, 6 Marines. And sure enough, those experiences helped out. And lucky enough, the guys that every single one that I took on my 3rd tour came back home. And to me, that was the biggest win. There's no medal out there that compares to bringing everybody back home that you're in charge to take in a battlefield. That was the most rewarding experience for me.
So how has the transition been for you? How are you feeling? And what would you like Americans to know about veterans that are coming home from the battlefield, that are retiring from whichever branch of service they may be coming home from? What would you like us to know?
I'm retired, it's been a hard transition, because you come, and I could see with the Marines, get themselves in trouble because you find yourself lonely. I know there's days that I found myself where I'm in the house alone, and then you go back to, your memorabilia and you're looking and you're like, man, like, just like the other day, putting that stuff together, man, I did all that. It's like a lifetime ago. So some of the new guys coming out, the guys that served 4 years, it's hard for them to cope because for the last 4 years, here's an 18-year-old or 22-year-old who just got out, right? For the last 4 years, this guy built a bond with his brothers, right? And that camaraderie, it's hard to replicate that in the civilian side.
So let me ask you this question. What can we as civilians do to support our men and women that are returning home from, whether it be 4 years of service or an entire career? Is there anything that we can be doing better?
You're doing it, man. Guys like you who are taking the time to be able to bring us together, right? To bring those individuals, to show them, it's like, hey, man, guess what? Yeah, I served too, and I served too. Yeah, compare those stories, and when I came back, I'm pretty open about PTSD. When I came back, I wasn't there. There's a lot of things that went through that changed my character, right? And make me questions. And I came back with survivor's guilt, all that stuff. I went through a phase of woohoo me, right? Why? And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I was feeling sorry for myself because, I didn't do enough in my first tour that I couldn't bring people back. And that hurt me. And what I learned throughout the years, the more open I was to talk about those events, the more easier it became to talk to, and the easier it became to, I want to say norm, but to live with it, And a lot of vets don't have that.
What can we do to become better leaders in society? Because I think that that's something that we, as a whole, collectively, can improve on. And so what advice on leadership in your experience and everything that you've learned over the course of 2.5 decades serving our country could you share with us?
So, and I came down with 5 things that you must do as a leader on a daily basis. We just spoke about this.
I can't wait to hear this.
So the 5 things you must do as a leader on a daily basis is what's called let me.
Let me.
Leadership, education, mentoring, training, mentoring, and inspiring. And my thing
is,
that
one more time:
leadership, education, training, mentoring, and inspiring. And it goes like this: who are you leading every day, right? On a daily basis, who's leading you? Who are you educating on a daily basis? Are you educating somebody, whether it be a 5-year-old or a 50-year-old? Who's educating you? Are you humble enough to still learn? Mentoring, when is it time to take off that rank? I used to call it hat off. Take your hat off, put it on a table, and have that man-to-man or man-to-woman conversation, and talk about life. The hardest questions for a Marine, believe it or not, was to answer was, how are you? Train hard every day. Whether it's your body, your mind, your soul,
that's
spirit. There's a spiritual. And I used to wake up at 5, not anymore, but wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, be in the gym.
You don't need to.
I don't need to, but we'd be in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, because if you're training, you're learning. And people get better at it. It becomes the norm when you train to do something. But the most important, I would think that a leader must do, it's inspire. When you inspire somebody, it makes them change their lifestyle. For me, when I joined the Marine Corps, the service that I started was a selfish start. Not so much selfish, but it was a point to where, to get my life together, but also to give back to our country, and to keep those freedoms, right, and those rights that had given me the opportunity to become somebody in this country, right? And I don't say I'm somebody, but have a better life that I would have had in Guatemala, right?
For sure.
So when somebody said thank you for that, I appreciate the fact that they supported, because at the end of the day, that's who we do it for.
I think everybody that's watched this video today can not only say that they were blessed from hearing your story, starting from Guatemala to coming to South Central Los Angeles, to joining the Marine Corps in '94, to being a drill instructor, to 3 combat tours, the leadership aspect of your career, coming home, and some of the things that you're experiencing today, and what we can do to help. I'd like to do something today that would be different. And what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to ask, if you found this information, or really this video as a whole, and Sergeant Major Catalan's story, and it blessed you and it inspired you on this Veterans Day, I'm going to ask that you consider showing your love and making a donation in his name, in his honor, in his sacrifice, to the Marine Corps Semper Fi Fund. Okay? All proceeds will go to 100% of serving veterans and active duty service members, and bless them charitably with all of the items that they need. My name is Jimmy Vercellino, producing branch manager with Goldwater Bank Mortgage Division, specializing in VA loans. Sergeant Major, appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Much love, man.
All right.
Thanks for being here.